everyone. Welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation, along with
CJ Lou from the Fired Up with CJ show. Woohoo!
Woohoo! If you've ever felt unclear, unsure, or uncertain about your direction or where you're heading, then do we have the reassuring show for you. Today we'll talk about faith, what it means, what it doesn't, how to have more of it, but why you don't want to go in blind. That plus we'll talk about running scared, swimming in the cold, packing calendars, and what in the world a book tour without books has to do with anything. So welcome back to the show, CJ. Are you ready to shine?
I am ready to shine.
Woo!
Woo!
So before we dive right into things, have you had any acts of faith lately?
Oh gosh, it seems like I would say yeah. I have to tell you about this phenomenal weekend that I had.
Please do.
Okay, so it was my 20th wedding anniversary with my husband.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Woo! Yeah, that deserves another drum. Woo!
I saw some pictures on Facebook.
Yes, we went away during the weekend and we did some spiritual work, and I have never had something like this happen before. I was in a state of some type of Kundalini arising thing, which I had. I actually had something like this happen before at Joe
Joe
Dispenza's.
Dispenza.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but in this case, it was with someone that I was loved that was with me during the whole time, and so it was the connection with his energy that caused all this energy to rush through me, and it literally for I don't know like 3 or 4 hours. It was like it was like literally light shooting through my body, and just energy, just like it just felt like it's electric energy pulsing through my body, and it sounds electrocuted sounds like a bad thing, but it felt like it was just energy pumping through my body in ways that I've never experienced before. It's just, I was shaking, I was convulsing. It was crazy. It was really crazy and good. You know, afterwards, I woke up the next day and I was like, wow, life is great. Like, life is beautiful. And I feel like it's the closest thing to getting stoned when you're just kind of like, like everything is good.
Were you just sitting there, like in a meditation stance, or
Yeah.
laying down, or what were you doing?
Yeah, we were. We were. We were basically just celebrating our anniversary and doing some kind of meditation, and we were working together, and it just, and ever since, I've been in this state. I
Well, you
can't
seem
even tell.
pretty relaxed.
I can't even tell
Gotta
you. I
show.
feel like I'm just. I know. I feel like I'm a surfer dude, and like it's weird. I'm touching my skin, and I can't really feel. Like I feel like a heightened sensation and no sensation at the same time. Like it's the weirdest thing. I'm talking to people, and I'm talking to them, and then there's a part of me that's talking to them in a meta position. I can't even tell you.
Well, hi, Meta.
I know. It's like hi there. Yeah. So it's and so my husband and I yesterday, we celebrated during the weekend, but yesterday was our actual anniversary date. And so we're walking, we decided to walk from our house to downtown Seattle, which is probably be about, I don't know, 6 mile walk.
Good walk.
We walked all the way over there. And when we were walking, we just ran into all these people. First of all, during my acts of freak out, I thought, well, I would really like to talk to my dear friend Ragini because I just don't know what has happened. And she's worked with Osho and had these kind of spiritual awakenings on the ranch. So I'm getting coffee and I hear, hi, CJ. And she's in back. She's just sitting in back of me.
What?
I was like, what? Because I was
This
walking.
is when you check whether you're awake or not.
I know, seriously, because I thought, wow. Because I was a little bit freaked out throughout this whole experience because it's hard not to let fear come in because it's so extraordinarily different than my normal state.
Well, this is exactly what we're talking about today. Having faith, going, this is all right, this is part of the process.
And that's what my husband's like, you know what? You can actually tell two stories. One, which is, oh my gosh, something's wrong with me. What's happened to me? Please make it go away. Or just kind of relax into it and enjoy it and know that something wonderful has happened. And So I ran into my friend Ragini, and she said, "Oh, what's happened is that when you actually have those types of practices, what happens is you have a a heightened sense of awareness, and you kick into a different sense of reality, and
Hmm.
so you're moving to a new form of reality where your sensory perception is heightened in some way." And it helped explain everything to me at that point. And she said, I said, well, how long will it last? And she said, sometimes it's a couple of hours, sometimes it's a couple of days, sometimes it stays forever. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And she said, yeah, your body just has to learn how to integrate with it. So I'm playing around. So this is truly an act of faith because, I'm driving, like everything is weird. Just even scratching my neck, like I feel my neck and I don't feel my
So how are you behind the wheel?
I think I'm okay. I actually think it's weird because when I need to focus, I can focus, but when I don't need to focus, I just, it's actually, I'm far more present. I was walking back from the gym just before the show, and I'm noticing everything, like the paint curling from the top of the ceiling. I'm noticing like the vividness of the tree leaves. There's a heightened sense of awareness of everything around me. And then I look up at the clouds, which are these beautiful feathery kind of stratus. Is that the type of cloud? It's not the cumulus, it's the stratus one where there are all these beautiful patterns.
Hmm.
And I look up and I actually just start crying because it's just so
Oh, that's
beautiful.
cool.
I'm like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. So I, so I know something is not. So this is all an act of faith, right? Because this is in a very strange state. And my husband and I went out to dinner yesterday, and I don't know if this is going to happen, but I'll forewarn people since this is a video. Every now and then, energy will run through me, and my body will go through some weird gyration, like I look like someone with Tourette syndrome or something like that.
So is
So
this like an exaggerated case of what that Harry Met Sally in the restaurant?
yes, it is, it is, but it's a real deal. You know what I mean? Where you feel so much energy. It's like, it's like shocking, but I'll forewarn people in case it happens because I literally have no control. I don't know when it's going to happen.
Hmm.
And because I kept on saying to my husband, all right, I'm going to tell you like now, just so you know when it happens, so we can actually mark if there's, because I'm a scientist. I'm trying to figure out how all this stuff works. And I said, well, let's see if when you say something, or if you send me energy, or if you're thinking anything, or if like what's around us is actually causing, and there's just absolutely no correlation at all. So I'm definitely in a place of just extreme faith because I really don't know what's happening. I like it. I mean, I like it, and it's extremely strange.
It's interesting. It's certainly a be careful what you wish for because I think when you go down the spiritual path, though there's no attachment to an outcome, you're like, at least for myself, magical things happen. That sounds
Right.
kind of cool if all of a sudden I'm able to see different realms and stuff. But then when you actually start to get some of that,
That's absolutely true. But then there's so we went to my wedding ring had a little crack. I remember I was telling you that last
yeah.
week. So we went to go get it repaired, and my husband said, "Well, while we're near here, why don't we go visit my old office, which was just one block south of there?" So we walked over, and we said, and we walked at the front at the edge of the door. We're like, "Can we come into this office?" My husband used to work in this office, and they're like kind of like, "Okay, okay." It's an architectural office. So we walk in, and the woman's like, wait, you used to work here? And he said, yes. And she said, that's so weird because today I got a check for Groundwire, which is the name of the organization, and I wasn't sure what to do with it. And my husband was executive director of this nonprofit, and she said, here. And she said, that's so strange that you're here on the day that we received this check. It's not like it's been 5 years since that organization.
Very cool.
Isn't that weird? And we're
We
like,
have money waiting for you.
what?
Listen to your intuition. There may be checks waiting for you.
Well, this is just a totally bizarre day through and through. Starting with me and my friend Ragini, we would meet people along the way, and then we decided to go
Wizard
to.
of Oz.
It was just that kind of week, but that's the kind of magic that we were experiencing, and so it is a balance, right? Because it really, be careful what you wish for, but then also now that I'm in it, it is a mixed bag, like It's a mixed bag, but it requires extreme faith for sure.
Well, we have a lot on your show as well, a lot of mediums, a lot of people who are able to channel and hear things. And on the one hand, that sounds very cool. And on the other hand, if I was hearing dead people right now, would I be able to do this show?
It's funny because if you during that time when I was with Gideon, my husband, on the weekend, I was channeling all sorts of people. His dead grandfather. I mean, it was just like all sorts of entities. Um, some author of a book he loves. They were just all coming through, and it was weird because at the time when I was channeling stuff, it's like I have to go now. Like it was like someone put in a quarter into those old payphones, and it's like I gotta go. My time's running. Goodbye. They just kind of lost. But all these things that I've never done, and I was like channeling these weird voices. It was just the most bizarre weekend ever, but it was so unbelievably cool. Anyhow,
Very cool. So
yes,
if we let's bring that back. We're going to double back to this,
I
I'm
know.
sure.
I
But
want to hear.
if we
Yeah, go ahead.
if we go back to last week you had a cracked ring, you had something else going on that we hadn't identified, and you had a cell phone that was in permaboot.
Yes, yes.
How's the cell phone doing?
I had to actually ship the cell phone in because it. I got it fixed temporarily, and then it fell apart. And then I thought, okay, I guess my whole world as I know it is
Is
actually
rebooting.
is rebooting. That should have been my foreshadowing for this, but it wasn't. So I knew something was going on. So tell me about you. So I can talk to you hours about this because it's just it's pure magic. I don't want to. I want to be really careful about my languaging because I want to say pure insanity, but it feels like pure. But I have to make sure
I
people.
have said that the line between insanity and genius is beyond razor thin.
Absolutely. So tell me about you. What's happening with you? So you've been running scared?
Well, we'll talk about each of them. The one that seems to pertain the most has been, I know I talk about swimming a lot lately, so I don't want to really overdo it, but in a sense, it falls into line with what you're talking about on a very different level, which is I'm fallen in love this year with open water distance swimming. And now in the Northeast, it's really cooling off.
Yeah.
And yesterday it was low 60s, kind of blustery,
Mm.
overcast. And I went to the lake with Jessica, and I don't own a wetsuit yet. I have a wetsuit shirt
Right.
thing that I could put on, a short sleeve shirt. And I'm like, that's it. I'm definitely putting it on today. And I put my toes in the water, and I hear, no, you can do this. And I'm like, it's freezing cold out here. And I'm like, okay, I can swim in this water without a wetsuit on. I've heard of people being able to do this. I'm a little bit nervous about this, but I have faith it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
And so I put myself in this water and I'm like, oh, doesn't feel bad. Started swimming immediately. My legs didn't really feel like mine anymore.
Did they feel heavy? See, I feel like they just feel like large packs of meat, you know?
For the first minute or two, that's a good description of them.
Yeah.
Then they started to warm up, and my goal, while I wanted to do 30, 40, 50 minutes, my goal was, it's something we talk about on the show, make a very small goal rather than a mountain in front of you. So my goal was 5 minutes. If I can get 2.5 minutes away from land, 2.5 minutes back, it's a good day.
Right.
And the body is going to start to adapt to
Acclimate
that.
it, yeah.
I went out double or almost triple that distance, and it was like flying and like being an airplane pilot and checking in. What are all the meters reading? What are your digits feeling like? What's your core feeling like? How are the legs? Are the legs coming online? Okay, I can feel. Am I feeling relaxed? What are the emotions going through me? And paying really careful attention. I had a tailwind going out, and at some point I hit this point of bliss. I'm like,
Wow.
wow, wonder I don't have the vest on. And I'm like, ah. Then I turned around and I'm like, oh, cold. Really, really cold. And I'm going through this act of faith. This is going to be fine. Everything's going to work out. There's fear coming up. There's a reason they use the expression cold feet. When
Mm,
you have cold digits, your body tends to go into a place of fear and wants to go into a place of flight to make sure you get warm. And so I'm checking in with all of this. I make it back to where Jessica is. She's bundled up and swinging in a hammock by the water's edge. And then I said, no, I can do this. And I went back out again
Wow.
and felt a little bit better, although I was kind of sprinting back and my stroke wasn't quite perfect. I'm like, why is things still slightly off? And I couldn't tell if it was the cold or if I had tired out my arms because I was pushing so hard to keep warm. When I got done, and first off, the fascinating thing was the body is adapting to the cold. It's wild. I learned from reading about open water swimming groups. Water is 25 times the heat sink of the air. So
What's that
if
mean?
it's a little cool out, so wind chill, for instance, the water chill is 25 times more powerful than wind chill. So it
Wow.
sucks away heat so much faster.
Oh.
And so it was interesting. My body was doing it. It was adapting. What I've noticed over the last few weeks of swimming in the cold is I'm usually, we joke and call me the lizard, or I would say I'm a poikilotherm. I'm kind of the body at the temperature of the air around me. So my body temperature tends to run really cold. For the last few weeks, I've been warm. I've been really,
Wow.
really,
You mean like
and
when you're out of the water?
out of the water. And I've been stripping away. Usually, I wear this kind of mountain of blankets at night, kind of like what is it, the Prince and the Pea on top of
Yeah.
his 10 mattresses. Well, it's like there's 10 mattresses worth of blankets on top of me, and I've been peeling away down to where I'm just about at a sheet now because my
Wow.
temperature has changed and cranked up, and I'm wearing less when I'm running and it's getting cooler or cold out, and I'm basically shirtless and shorts and staying warm. So there's some radical shifts going on. So
Wow.
that's watch and really an act of faith. And then talking about where you're going, I've experienced this several times, and I experienced this most strongly yesterday. These swimming experiences, they're getting unusual. And I don't want to say they're a Kundalini experience,
Uh-huh.
but it has been a challenge integrating. When I get out of the water, it's sort of as if I've done an Ironman, and I've done Ironman where you get out and you don't feel quite like your legs are underneath you. But in this case, I get out and my vision seems squishy, is the only way to describe it. Nothing appears real. Nothing feels real. I feel like I'm coming into a landing from another dimension because it is
Wow.
such a different world. And I was very thankful. I had to take a business call on the way back from the lake yesterday. And I was so glad that Jessica, I wouldn't have taken the call while driving. It's not my skill set is to
Mm.
multitask like that. I'm not sure if it's anybody's, but it's certainly not mine. And she was driving back, and I was like, there is absolutely no way I could have been driving right now. Just
Mm.
half an hour in the water, and my senses were so disintegrated from this reality by my quote flight time in the water. It was really
Mm.
strange and unusual and very, very cool as I'm kind of adapting to this colder, slower, very different world in the water.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that is so cool. It's very similar kind of the kind of thing that I'm experiencing where, and you know what's weird? Someone said to me, and I went to Paul Selig's class, and he said, and I said, when he was giving, he goes through some channeling thing, and he sends you energy, and I was moving, like I still have this kind of tick now from the Joe Dispenza thing. So at the time I was moving, she's like, "Oh, have you had a Kundalini awakening thing?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Yeah, it was really weird because I went to a Byron Katie workshop because I interviewed Byron Katie, just loved her, and a good friend, dear friend of mine that's very, very into Byron Katie. So she said, please come to this thing. And it was just a slog, this whole Byron Katie thing, because people were just bringing up stuff that I've just never even heard of in my life. It was just craziness. I mean, an awful, god awful kinds of things like rapes, murders. I mean, I was
Wow.
like at the end, I was like, kid killed committing suicide, like just one after another. And at the end of the day, I was just completely emotionally fried because it was just so heartbreaking to hear all
People
these things.
there needing healing from this.
Yeah, yeah, and they were just these, like I said, just god awful things. And then the last person, I was like, okay, I think I have to leave soon, but I'm just going to listen to one more and then I'll go. And the woman who came in up last, this person who said that she had this Kundalini awakening experience and that she can't turn it off, and that she'll be in, and she has a much more extreme thing where, for when I observed her, she was like putting her foot down on the ground and literally having like spiritual orgasms in the on the audience. And like she said, she's on the bus and she can't control it, and it's, and I was looking and she was just talking and she's like moving like this like the whole time. I mean, it was just bizarre. And I remember thinking, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. What the hell is happening? I'm pretty open-minded, but I think I just can't, I don't know what the heck is happening. And so this woman who I saw at Paul Selig said, oh, you know what? When you see people having a Kundalini awakening and you're there, it's kind of like a virus, like it's contagious sort of thing. A virus makes it sound bad, but the energy is.
Well, that's what I thought of when Jessica's wanting to go in December. She's got it on her dream board or in her journal that she wants to go to this Joe Dispenza event. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, you're going. It's a done deal. I feel like at an event like this where there is a mass focus, there's a better word for it, but when everybody is sharing that similar goal and you're raising up your vibration together, it's a lot more likely that somebody's going to pop and then pop, pop, pop. It's kind of like popcorn.
Yes, and that's exactly what, when I was in the Joe Dispenza stuff and this stuff was kind of bubbling up, my hand started shaking like this and I couldn't stop shaking. And the guy next to me said I was like picking up the energy and my hand started shaking. It literally was like popcorn, because when it is like in yoga, they always say that the calmest person, you know, actually calms the whole class down. But I think if your vibration is going up, 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 it actually brings everyone up. Because after I went to a James Van Praagh event, and his energy is seriously way, way, way high. So you walk into those events and you feel like you're just loopy, because his energy is so, so, so high. In fact, when I interview him, it's really hard for me to interview him because I get seriously ungrounded after talking to him. But I do think if, unlike the yoga, I think if someone has super high energy and vibration, it actually brings everyone up to that level. It's kind of crazy.
I wish I could remember the teacher's name. It'll come to me after this. I'll put it in the show notes. We went to a chanting event on Maui a few years ago.
Oh, I love chanting, yeah.
And everybody's chanting, and they're going through this sequence. It was amazing. This gentleman has an amazing voice. He was the butler's son of the Queen of England. And so he has this beautiful, beautiful accent to him. Mm. And we're going through this, and I started shaking back and forth, and then I started shaking more, and then I'm rocking, and then I'm holding on to myself. and I was trying to stop myself from having this experience because I felt like I must be faking it to try to get attention. And so I was fighting against myself, so that I wasn't I didn't want to become the center of attention at this event. It wasn't my event. I'm not. And then secondly, I'm like, nobody else is going through this. I don't think I'm supposed to be with this group of strangers, even though we're chanting together, right, having some sort of whatever. I didn't even label it at the moment. I'm just like, doesn't feel right. And I found a way to tamp it down. I know that's still in me. I think it's in all of us.
Yeah. And I was trying to tamp it down too. And it's hard to tamp it down because when you tamp it down, mm-hmm, it's hard. It's hard to. It's way actually easier to let it go, let it rip.
So let's talk about something that I haven't really talked about on air. It's totally off track. I know you're interested to talk about it, and it kind of falls along this lines, which is I've met with a shaman before, mm-hmm, and had three ceremonies with ayahuasca.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, yes. I've wanted to talk about that.
Yes. And in many ways, this falls in line. So I understand some of what you're talking about. I've drank from the fire hose of energy. I've had energy flowing through me in a way that I don't have words to describe. And my third journey was so incredibly powerful that the shaman and I undertook together that I don't know if I had it to do it again. I think my mind would be in a different place. He was trying to get me to a place of complete faith and surrender. Mm. And so he took me to kind of a level of energy that only an experienced shaman would go to. And it was really hard. It was not a pleasant. First off, ayahuasca is if you want to do something more recreational, drive over your foot. It's more fun.
Okay. So what happened when you went to that higher level of consciousness?
Too much in a good way, but this is getting to where you're at.
Yeah.
So okay, we'll finish what I'm saying there. The experience was god awful, and we'll get that. We'll double back to it. Afterwards, it took me a few days to integrate, and there was such a peace and a knowingness and a everything is all right with the world that came about a few days later that let me know that what I went through, even though it was beyond a little uncomfortable in the moment, was while you don't know on a conscious level what's going on, unconsciously or on your higher self, your spirit level, there's a lot of attunement going on. And that you didn't get quite that level of discomfort, but I think you were getting that attunement going on. And as you're coming back here, it's integrating, and you start to see, oh, wow, this did some really, really cool stuff.
That is what it feels like. It feels like your spiritual self is more present. You know, if I were to describe what has been happening ever since I've been on a spiritual practice, my ego is like, sit down, get back in that seat and sit down. It's like driving along, and it's like, yeah, but I want. And it's like, nope, sit down. And then and I feel like what's happened over just this past week, and it's gradually, over very gradually. Then all of a sudden, the spirit was sitting on the side. It's like, oh, hey, how are you? Okay, no, I'm driving this time. So my ego's like, no, I'm driving. I'm actually going to drive most of the time. And it's like, And then all of a sudden, like the spirit was driving, like. And the ego's like,
why does this sound like Beetlejuice?
And then the ego's like, what? No, let me drive. I'm like, all right. And now it feels like the ego is now, I don't know if it's in the back seat, but it's further, it's not even in the same seat anymore at this juncture. I mean, who knows? It'll be interesting to see what happens next week. But at this juncture, or next week, or a month from now, or an hour from now, like I'm trying not to get too attached to whatever is happening, because that's a sure way for it to disappear, right? So I'm just trying to whatever, I'll just enjoy it while it happens.
I like it. In my case, it definitely did fade over time. Talking about it here is helpful as a reminder, but you start to get distance, and the mind does a funny thing with most experiences over time. So going back into experience itself and bringing it kind of full circle with faith, when you have an ayahuasca journey, it's really like tuning your radio into a different frequency. And we're told by quantum mechanics, quantum physics, there are all these universes, parallel universes going on at the same time. And so when you tune in your frequency to a different radio station, all of a sudden you're here, but the here you're in is a different one.
Yes.
Which is why it's a good idea to be sitting down and not wandering through the jungle, for instance. Because what you're seeing ain't what's in the here, it's in another here.
Right. Different reality, a different dimension of reality.
Literally different dimension of reality, different people, different creatures, beings that you will meet, that you will speak with, different guides who will share things with you, different entities who are necessarily not so kind, which is why it's really good to have an experienced guide to take you on this journey. It's, I'd say, essential, at least in the beginning, and completely different rule set of everything that you're going to experience. So so when your radio is tuned, you're just tuning into another frequency that's already here all the time. It's just all of a sudden, instead of watching the TV channel of CJ's earthly reality, it's CJ's E2 reality. Right. What happened when I went on this third journey with the shaman, and really it was a lesson, each one is a lesson of faith. And part of the early process with ayahuasca is the male yang version of this, the Peruvian shaman, the way it's been done historically, is that you kind of get, everybody's experience is different, but you might get eaten up by flames, burned alive if you're ready for it, kind of broken down to your ashes and rebuilt. Jessica's opinion is a I don't know what would her word be, a hogwash maybe. I don't know if she'd use that, but okay, that's a young male. You need to get torn apart to get rebroken. Let's just go for the love. We don't need to go that be broken down way. And she's right. And there are guides today who say we don't need to go that way anymore. That was in the jungles in the past. We've kind of evolved beyond that. And I experienced those flames to a little bit first and second time, and both times I was able to manage to extinguish the flames. There's literally walls of flames. You're about to go into it, and I'd send them love and send them love, and I made it through without getting burned by the flames, which is good. At least I believe. The third time, instead of turning into one additional station, or two stations at once, or three stations at once, or 5, or 10, or 100, or 1,000, or 1,000,000, I was tuning into what felt like an infinite number of stations at once. The whole world was completely scrambled. I couldn't make sense of my hand in front of my face. It'd be like seeing a billion hands at once, but a billion hands of a different color that don't even look like hands, that look like lines and squiggles and circles and this and that. And it was way, 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 way too much. And I was freaking out. On top of freaking out, I had been told by somebody beforehand, oh, you've got to be careful with ayahuasca. It can break you open and you'll never come back.
Oh,
and
no.
so I had fear in me of kind of a kundalini arising from which I'll never return back to my being. And I'm like, oh my God, what a mistake I've made. This is the worst thing I could have done in the world. And you're trying to get these thoughts out as, all I can describe it as the whole world is a vibration of infinite vibrations at once.
Right.
And it's a pretty panicky situation. Had I known then what I know now, I would have understood what the shaman was trying to do is kind of in a sense without fire, but break me to let go and to have complete and total faith that even in this complete, most uncomfortable sensation I've ever felt, and obviously I've been laying on the rocks dying, that was uncomfortable. This is a lot more uncomfortable than that.
Oh my God.
It's such an intense sensory overload that you're going, yeah, I could crack and never come back. But the shaman's goal was to help you to crack so that you leave your old self behind. And I didn't have faith to fully let go. And I know I'm saying that like a regret, and maybe there is a tinge of that, but I wasn't ready apparently at the time.
Right.
But it really taught me about letting go and surrender and about having faith, because there's almost nothing that we're going to go through here on earth that we're not going to survive. And if we don't survive, it's my belief, and with my near-death experiences and the journeys, I'm pretty convinced of this, even if we don't survive here on earth, we're still going to survive. And so having that faith makes it a lot easier to get through the tough moments. And that's not a blind faith of oh, everything's just going to work out. I'm going to put myself in front of the bus. No, if the bus is coming, you're going to get flattened.
Right. Yeah.
Way.
Right.
But it really shifted things. And for that, I'm beyond ever grateful, as difficult and crazy, insane as it was to have gone through that.
Right. So you took 3, usually with ayahuasca, as I understand it, for other people I know, you have 3 nights of doing it, so you took it 3 different times. And at the end, your key takeaway was about surrender, and then also recognizing that there are other realities that are there outside of the reality that you knew.
So certainly one is that we don't die. You absolutely do not die. This is not a hallucination. It's real. It's a real experience, as real as the holographic world that we're in right now. It's just tuning in a different station. And it was there, and you could see it, you could feel it, you could touch it, you could taste it, you could smell it. It was absolutely real. And so I know without a shadow of doubt in my mind, we don't die.
Mm-hmm.
And that was huge. I also know that we're supported and loved. That was huge. I also know that even though there's support and love, it's not kumbaya, everything is good.
Right.
There are, at least on these planes, and that's still another plane,
Mm-hmm.
there are challenges, there are difficulties, there is I don't know if I want to call it good and evil. I don't tend to use those terms, but there's learnings,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to get those learnings. And even for the people that I met in these other realms, they had just as many challenges as we do, just in different ways, different
Mm-hmm.
levels.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that we're all incredibly supported, and that there are people, beings, angels, guides, whatever you want to call it, who are watching out for us and each and every moment. And then we can call to them. And I need to remember that. I'm glad I'm saying that on air
Yeah.
so I can remember to call to them more. There was certainly lessons of faith. There was a huge one. The second ceremony that I did, there was a huge lesson of how sacred the bond is with Jessica and me,
Mm-hmm.
and how to never ever break that bond, and how incredibly, incredibly important that is. And
Mm-hmm.
that was such a huge, huge takeaway there.
Mm-hmm.
Those are probably the key ones. There may be one or two more, but it really helps shape and sculpt and mold my understanding of reality, because it really changes your perspective. It's like a near death experience. It can't help but change your perspective of death. Not that death isn't scary, but if death isn't actually the end and is merely a transition to something else or someplace that we've already been, then yes, it may really, 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 really suck to miss those we love here. Then again, we're probably going to see them again.
Right.
But it is not nearly the scary. It'd be much scarier if that's it. That's the end. This
Mm-hmm.
is your one to play the video game and
Right.
you're done. So you screw up, screw up. All you have to do is age. You're out of here.
Right.
That's terrifying.
Right.
If you find out that is not the case at all, I asked in the first journey to be shown my different lifetimes or something to that
Oh,
effect.
wow.
And I was given a glimpse of how old I am. And it really gave you the idea. It was done with mosaic and tiles.
Mm.
And each room that I went into represented a lifetime of mine.
Wow.
One room after the next room after the next room, making this Fibonacci pattern.
Wow. Beautiful.
We all are that old. We are all that infinite. We just get lost here and think it's just this one little 60, 70, 80-year-old existence.
Mm-hmm.
And we get wrapped up in the drama. I get wrapped up in the drama as much as anybody else. How's the shoe doing? What are we going to do? How are we going to reach? Whoa, whoa, whoa. You ain't driving the ship. And are you driving your ship with your Kundalini
No,
experience?
absolutely not. I'm not, and I don't want to drive the ship. I mean, I actually
No.
having experience driving a ship and not driving a ship. It's far more fun to not drive the ship because you will be taken places that you would never expect, and magic is happening all around you if you have faith and let go of driving the ship or driving the car or whatever analogy you want to use. So yeah, I'm a believer of it's way more easy. Like life is easier. The whole effort ease thing, like you have to get up and do something, but aside from that, like there's it's like much like the conversation we had before, there's energy and life running through you that wants you to have this fabulous experience. You just have to get up and move. And I think if you have some intention in where you want to go and you want to manifest that, then that's available too, because you do create your own reality. I had this weekend, or before we went on our weekend, we went we went to our architects who has we're building an addition to the back of our house, and he's able to now. This is very rare, but he virtual reality is really big here in Seattle. So he took the architectural drawings and created a 3D virtual reality so we could actually walk
Cool.
into the
Holodeck.
past. Yes, it was seriously, seriously cool. And what I realized with virtual reality is that we can create in the future, we'll be able to create the homes that we want to be in. Like I could actually sit and feel like I was in our new, little addition in the back of our house, and I could see what it would look like from our living room, from our master bedroom. I could see all of that through this virtual reality. And my husband and I had these really long conversations because isn't life that we're experiencing now a virtual reality? We
Heck
just don't
yeah.
realize it's a virtual reality, and that but in the future it will be much more expressed where we can actually figure out what reality we want and create, and we can interact with the people and things that we want and the places we want to be, because we will be controlling our virtual reality. And the weird thing is we do that already, but we just don't realize it.
It's interesting. I have an interview with Colette Baron Reed coming up after this, and we're talking about uncharted, going into uncharted territory,
Mm-hmm.
stepping outside of the map because the map is kind of a historical representation of what was. And really, what it comes down to is stepping beyond the fear. Because if you're still in a place of fear, it's you are going to create a reality, but you're going to create the exact reality that you don't want.
Right. Yeah, it's
And
very, yeah, absolutely.
so as oh,
Oh,
go for it.
I was talking to James von Prague, and also the astral projection guy. Have you ever talked to the astral projection guy? He's phenomenal.
No.
Anyways, oh, I have to tell you about him. I can't remember his name offhand. Robert something or other. Anyways, um, in both cases, they say that when you die or when you astral project, you go to the level of consciousness that is predominant in your world and with things that are predominant in your world. So if you're a Muslim, you may actually go to a Muslim oriented reality. If you're a fear based person, you'll probably go to a fear based part of reality, which some people call hell, right? Because you're going through, when you die, you go in and you have to do, I guess when you talk to mediums, they describe you have to go through a life review where you've reviewed everything that awful that's happened or good or whatever. You just go through a life review and figure out the ripple effect of your life and how it's affected other people. And so James von Prague said, there are people who get stuck in that reality, and it's like almost like a hell because they just get cycle around and they go to the lowest level of their consciousness, which is fear. So they go into this fear-oriented place, and that's where they stay. They don't realize that they can leave that place at any point in time. Similar to the guy who did astral projection that said some people, and I have all these comments on my interview on astral projection on my website. You can see it on Fired Up with CJ, but it's one of my highest viewed videos. But what he said is that there are a lot of people who have really bad experiences when they astral project because they go into a fear place. They go into the level of consciousness that's fear oriented, and it's hell. Like they want to get out of that. They think it's awful. So I think you do have and much like your ayahuasca experience where you said, "Hey, I could be in love too," and then that was the
Mhm.
thing that kind of brought you out of that fear into love. I think
I
that
was literally looking at flames that are there. I'm being like being in a uh, crematory is what it looks like,
yeah,
and I'm on the conveyor heading into the crematory, and instead I'm able to put out light and love, and the flames completely go away.
yeah. It's
And
called
we can,
dismemberment in shamanism. It's to actually break down those
yeah.
pieces of you that are still resisting going to this other part of reality or that needs to be healed or whatever. So that's interesting, though. And I think you're right. It's about fear. What were you going to say? I'm sorry,
Oh no,
interrupted
no,
you.
just it goes along this whole theme of talking about faith is really what you see is what you believe it and you'll see it. If you believe that when you step off the cliff, there's going to be something waiting for you there, then the chances are there's going to be something waiting for you there. If you believe if I step off the cliff, I'm going to fall and plunge to my death, you unfortunately get that reality too. It is such a we're really on a precipice here, no pun intended, of You've got holographic images that you're working with. We have the internet. They're putting in the Fios line out here, which is what, 500 megs. They'll have gig lines elsewhere with Google. We're really getting connected and information in a completely different way. And when I think of fiber, I'm thinking of wow, we're piping light into people's houses. This is actually really cool on a spiritual level here. Okay, they're charging a lot for the light, but it's organized. It's intelligent light in a sense, coherent light. That's the term I want to use. It's coherent light, and I think we're shifting. We're shifting as individuals. We're shifting as a species. We're shifting on this planet, and we can really bring about the realities that we desire by having faith and building a different hologram in our minds.
I have to share something that is completely aligned with that. When I was in the virtual reality, they mapped our house, and then everything behind that is clouds. So I wanted to get a perspective from our house from the street. So I was walking backwards in this virtual reality, even though I'm on ground in this consensus reality. I'm walking back, and there's a point in which the picture that was created is gone. And you literally, for me to make a step back, I would be stepping back into a precipice going down to some unknown hole in the sky.
You go, whoa!
Yeah, and it's funny because you're walking, so I have this whole virtual reality headset, and I'm walking, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm walking into the sky. I'm walking off of a precipice. And it's amazing because there's another part of me that knows I'm walking on the ground, but in the other part of the virtual reality, I'm scared, scared because I'm actually about to step off the edge of the earth. And it's really like recognizing that going back to what you're saying, it's like the edge of the earth doesn't even exist. It only exists in your mind because you're believing the virtual reality around you, right? In reality, I'm stepping on the ground, but in the virtual reality, when I have my virtual reality headset, I feel like I'm literally stepping off the side of the earth going backwards. But it's a perfect metaphor for life, right? Because we are afraid to, if you're stepping backwards, you don't even know you're totally in the unknown. You don't know what's coming. And to just to know that the next step is off the ground and you don't know where you're going and you don't even know what you're seeing because your back is towards whatever is there. It's scary, but it is, again, a leap of faith, literally a leap of faith.
Jessica took me out for a walk earlier this week, and it's something we used to do at clinics, like we'd hold at Kripalu or something.
Yeah.
And she said, "Give me your hand, all right?" And she goes, "Now close your eyes. I'm taking you for a walk." And it is such a simple thing as a walk down a sidewalk you know so well. It becomes such a leap of faith. And I think it's so liberating, too, when you're able to let go and you realize, you're right, I was okay. I think it's a perspective changer.
Yeah. So how does this all, I know that you have another show coming up. How does this all feel when you think about packing calendars and all this stuff? How does this conversation shift everything?
Oh, it's good. It's good. How this conversation shifts everything is a reminder. I get reminders just as much as I'm saying these things and sharing these things. I'm guessing you get the same thing too. It's both for everyone and it's also for ourselves. And so this is reminding me of how little I have to worry about the day-to-day to-dos. I still get to do them if I want to keep a show going and help people, but how little I have to worry about them. There is no worry necessary. They're going to, next week is on paper our busiest week for the show. I'm not worrying about it because I know whether I worry or not, the same things unfold. Although if I worry, I'm going to create a much harder reality for myself. We had Pam Grout on a couple of days ago, Thank and Grow Rich. It was an amazing interview. And she talks about the most dangerous word in the English language is, or four-letter word is hard. When you say something is hard, you're just making it a mountain more difficult for yourself. If instead you go, I'm going to get through this with grace and ease, no problem, might be some work, I'm going to get through this. You will get through it with grace and ease because you just put on a different program for your hollow goggles. What are they called?
I can't remember what they're called, but the virtual reality goggles, I don't remember.
Yeah. And so what I take away from this, and it's definitely a woohoo, is I'm leaving this going, I get to create my reality today. What amazingly awesome thing do I want to come into my day? What amazingly awesome thing do you want to come into your day, CJ? We get to create this and then watch it unfold. And certainly there could be the dismembering flames coming up at times. But if you pipe out enough love, those go away too.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what, it's all going to work out. And that doesn't mean it's all puppies and roses. It doesn't. There are some difficult moments. Being for it was only 8, 10, it might have even been a little bit longer than that, 12 hours in that ceremony where time didn't even exist. It felt like I was being dismembered in so many ways I can't even describe. I'm still here.
Yeah.
It's all good. All good.
I love it. That is the best way to close. That was awesome. Yay, applause.
All right. Do you have any last words of wisdom yourself, CJ?
No, that was the perfect way to close.
All right, then. For everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler and
CJ Lou
saying, be well, have fun, have faith, and step off that cliff, or at least into the cold waters, and shine bright.
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show and love your support in any way by giving me comments below or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.